All right, Scott Bass, welcome back to the show. We've got Surf NVS with us today. Look at these freaky fins.
Oh, heck yes. Look at all those killer fins.
Um,
I see some favorites there.
Look, you keep the classics on hand, but why not get wild? Go with the C drives, go with the Shane Haran upright fins, the Weber quads, Maurice Cole, all sorts of interesting templates, foils.
One of the coolest things about the Boardroom show is just talking to all the fin guys. There's FCS is there, True Aims is there, of course, NVS is there. Um, Occasionally Rainbow's there. So it's so fascinating, right, to actually get insight from the guys that can talk the talk regarding fins.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, obviously, some of these that are less conventional, you'd want to know what the attributes are before you commit. So they are the experts. And what we love about the NVS fins is the G10 laminate construction material, which is super strong. So they can actually foil the fins much thinner than traditionally. So you get more maneuverability and kind of precision surfing, but without sacrificing or risking the fact of breaking the tip off the fin or breaking the fin at all. So they're guaranteed for life is how strong they are. So pretty incredible stuff at surfnvs.com. How many fins you bringing with you to Indo? How many sets of fins should I say?
That's a great question. And because I'm trying to pack really light. So I think 5 sets for 3 boards.
3 boards, 5 sets. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, smart. Quiver expander.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, and I always bring extra sets because NVS is so generous that they like to style out the locals. Wherever we're going, they're like, I'm going to send you some fins, leave them behind so that not only the crew can use them, but maybe future tourists can have access to them too. So
I'll do that too. I'll leave behind some fins for sure. I
that's the way
usually
to
leave
go.
behind surfboards. I'm just like, here, take this board.
Yeah, I mean, look, Indonesia has tons of surf tourism and probably access to fins and boards. But like where we go in, where I'm going, Chicama, Peru, it's pretty remote. And yeah, there's tourists that come through there, but there's not a bunch of surf shops locally. There's not a bunch of board builders locally. So leaving things behind, I think, is really helpful. Because if you're in a pinch and the waves are pumping and you don't have what you need, that's the ultimate bummer.
Absolutely. Good call.
So thank you, Surf NVS, for the generosity and the high quality fins. And then, of course, Real Water Sports. Real Water Sports, longtime retail partner. They've got a 1,500 surfboard inventory. But what I love about them is making active, continuing kind of contributions into the surf space, either by supporting small builders or investing in the Boardroom show, supporting our work. They're doing great work, creating tons of great content as well.
Yeah, look, real water sports. I mean, you know, um, it's basically the one-stop shop.
It is.
Like if you need surf or water-related hard goods or soft goods or gear, or how about lessons on how to do it? Real water sports. You know.
There's so many things that Amazon has just like taken over, so many industries. Real Water Sports is providing stuff that Amazon could never. Not only with surfboards, but like you're saying, with lessons, with the Waterman's Retreat, with the restaurant there, with almost all the gear that they carry. It's like it's your one-stop shop for anything water sport related, from foils to surfing. It's incredible the work that they've done.
Absolutely. Check out Real Water Sports.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing rail.
Yeah, guy. Yeah, guy. David, I said it. Yeah, guy. It is the start of the show. It's Spit. It's the Spit podcast. David Lee Scales, Scott Bass, and we're talking all things surf and some other stuff perhaps as well. And let's see. It's David. It's Tuesday, July 14th. And good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Scott. Quick reminder, I mentioned it about a month ago, but the Paul Strauch paddle out for anybody who wants to go is 1 week away. It's July 22nd in Doheny from 3 to 6 p.m. So if you want to honor the life of Paul Strauch, that is where you go. Doheny, Wednesday, July 22nd, 3 to 6 p.m. Join.
Wow, that's a must. That's going to be a powerful paddle out. How many? There's been so many incredible, meaningful. Like, I mean, I think all paddle outs are meaningful, but let me rephrase that. Just like culturally significant paddle outs at Doheny. You know,
yeah.
I know I was at the Rabbit Kakai paddle out there. I was at the Hobie Altar paddle out there. I'm sure some other ones that aren't popping into the memory banks right now, but and the Paul Strauch one is going to be, it's going to be, it's going to be legit. That's not the right way to characterize it, but it's going to be powerful and heartfelt, and really, you know, this is a guy that sort of encompasses everything that surfing is and should be. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to kind of scissor my life closer and, you know, cleave it a little closer to the way Paul Strauch lived. And what a great, he was such a, it's been said before, but he was very much like he had the principles of Duke Kahanamoku. He had this real aloha, sweet, kind, gentle, great surfer, just like everything that, I can't speak for Hawaiians, but everything that I think Hawaiian surfing is about.
I think it's one of the benefits probably of growing up in Hawaii. I've always thought about, like, you know, Andy irons, let's say, or just like Kauai specifically. It's where if you grew up there and you leave and you try to conquer the world, you win a bunch of world titles, like you earn a bunch of money, where do you end up after that? You go buy a house somewhere fancy? No, you go back to Kauai. Like all the billionaires who have achieved more wealth than we ever thought possible from a single human being, they're buying up properties in Kauai, and that's where they're. So I feel like Hawaii, you're born into a situation where you almost have everything that any human being could ever strive to want in their life. And if they amass wealth, that's where they're going to end up going. And so if you happen to have good looks like Paul Strauch, you're born in the place that everybody wants to end up, you have the talent of Paul Strauch, it'd be wise to just not really strive for anything more. Just be grateful for what life has given you and be kind from that point on, and just, you know, spread the goodwill that you have been gifted throughout your life or been born into. And I think that's how Paul kind of lived. Everybody else is chasing all the time and trying to advance and sometimes stepping on others. I think he was just like born into it, grateful for it, appreciative of it, and then emanated it out elsewhere.
Yeah. Super great guy. And you brought up some pretty interesting stuff there. The idea that if you are from this place that you suggested, that you have everything that you need, is certainly true on some level, certainly materially. But one might suggest that no matter where you're born or where you're at, you have everything you need. It's just up to you to be enlightened enough or to, you know, to acknowledge that. And that's hard to do. You know what I mean? Like I can't do, you know, like that's, you know, I think of like people in prison, you know, that have reached a level of enlightenment where they're like, there's serenity there. Like there might be, you know, 1 out of 100,000 that's like that. I don't know, but you know what I mean? Like it's not necessarily, I think you get what I'm saying.
I agree with you entirely. And that's kind of where I was coming from, is that I try to reset that mantra all the time, because I wake up thinking about the things that need to get done or ways that I would like to improve my life or my family's life. And there's an anxiety that comes with that. And then I'm like, go into silent mode. I'm in the kitchen, like fixing breakfast, like trying to like figure out my day in my head. And I'm not being polite or kind to the people in my house. And then I look around and I'm like, look at the wife, look at the kid. Everything's fine. You got it made.
Smell the toast. The toast
yeah, exactly.
is being, you know, have you even smelled the sourdough? It's toasting up nice. And it's, you know, you've passed that whiff, went past you because you're.
Exactly. It's like, David, look around. You already did it. Like, chill out, bro. Stop. Get out of your head. Don't F it up. Be grateful that, you know, and so I think about that all the time. And, but I think that when you are in an environment like Hawaii, and there's other places in the world too, it's extra. It's like, that is the ultimate. And so, Paul example, I think there's a lot of people who grow up in that environment as well who aren't grateful for it, or they just have family trauma or whatever they're like working through. But I think Paul's the great example of being gifted the most wonderful things in life and being grateful for them and living with that gratitude on a daily basis and trying to share it with others.
Yeah. And, socioeconomically, Hawaii can be a tough place to live, to make a living. A lot of Hawaiians come over to the mainland because there's a ton more opportunity here. And that makes sense. And that's what Paul did. But Paul's heart was always in Hawaii. And I know he went back often and surfed with his buddies, his old buddies. He got a whole crew. And good for him. What a wonderful human.
Lived a great life, left a huge imprint on so many people. And talking about Doheny as a kind of a focal point for a lot of these paddle outs, there'd be no way to extract that portion of Southern California from surfing's tapestry. There's just so much influence that's come from there industry-wise, largely. I mean, a lot of great surfers, of course, and great waves around that area, but so much industry was birthed from that area. Yeah,
I mean, certainly with the advent of foam, if you look at industry, you think, okay, Velzy was sort of the first guy. You could argue it was Pacific Systems Homes who made production boards in Los Angeles, but Velzy had the first surf shop. That's widely acknowledged. And Velzy was selling boards, you know what I mean? But as soon as obviously Hobie was around during the balsa era, but as soon as Grubby and Hobie got together with the foam thing, and then Grubby put it on semi-lockdown, especially in the 70s and 80s, that's the germinating point for sure for the industry. And that's why it shows when all these guys are around that Dana Point area, I think of like Fly, underground guys, Timmy's uncle and his father, Timmy Patterson, Mickey Munoz. Of course, we mentioned Grubby and Hobie and a whole crew of guys in the next generation, like Randy Slay and just a ton of guys, right? Is it Randy? Is Josh's dad's name Randy?
Yes. Yeah. We never mentioned Fly, or I don't remember that we did mention him or give him his proper flowers when he passed away either. But Jean-Pierre Van Swae passed away in this past year, right around the same time, actually April 24th, right around the same time as Paul. And yeah, master craftsman, and just a great guy to the very end. I saw him a few times in the last couple of years, and he was so gregarious and just great.
Super cool guy for sure. And good guy. I have great fond memories with him and with his son, JP.
Yeah.
Anyway,
do you know where he was born?
Which one?
Fly.
The Fly. I'm gonna say he was born in I have no idea. Really, I have no idea. This is obviously not in California, so I'm gonna suggest to you that he was born in Guernsey Island. I don't know. Where was he born?
Belgium.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wouldn't have guessed that.
No. Without some sort of hint, you gave me. I had 230 nation states to choose from. It was going to be tough.
Should have created a Surfer X type game for you to fail.
Well, I have one for you if you're.
Let's get in.
Oh, by the way, before we go there, because we're kind of talking on this sort of ethereal plane, I wanted to tell you how much I enjoyed the Ben Bourgeois interview on Surf Splendor. I listened to it in its entirety, and it was just great. And it sort of speaks to this humility that Paul Strauch possessed and expressed. And there was a real sense of that. Ben's always been a really nice guy. Let's get that straight. It was, he would have come across nice even if he hadn't expressed the sort of transformational stuff that's happened in his life. But it was really powerful, and I think it's probably going to help a lot of people. And I know it inspired me. I actually even sent Ben a little thank you for the inspiration.
Thanks, man. I'm glad you listened to it. I was honored. I was kind of transformed as well by the conversation, and so I want to, I don't want to overhype it. Basically, So I put it out there, and it's kind of like, listen if you want to listen, but the feedback has been really, really positive. And I'll just say, like, there's been a couple of instances when, through producing Surf Splendor over the course of 13 years, that I feel like shifted the tone of future shows. The first one that I remember was Jamie Brissick in 2017. I interviewed Jamie Brissick, and he just got very vulnerable and candid. I don't know what prompted it, but it was like very, very compelling. And I always defaulted to steering the conversation into like more surfy territory. If somebody started getting vulnerable, I'm like, well, tell me about the contest that you won in 1988 or whatever. And that was one where I just let it go. And the feedback was so positive. I remember getting a bunch of positive feedback from people like who I didn't even know listened to the show, but were like, you know, well-known names. And so I think that gave me the confidence to allow the show to go into those spaces and not try to make it so surfy. And then I noticed guests would show up wanting to go into those vulnerable places because it became kind of a safe space to do that. And the next one I remember was Maurice Cole, who I won't even get into what he talked about, but it was just really raw and like, wow, powerful. And then I remember Sal Masekela at the time, Salema Masekela, doing a similar thing. And I was like, dude, this is like, now I feel comfortable in that space having those conversations, but it's also different than what is being discussed anywhere else in surf media. Like, I love surf videos and films. I love surf print. Like, I'm a huge fan of all those things, but they don't get into this stuff, you know? And so this is now a lane that I feel comfortable in, that thankfully these people also feel comfortable in. And I think it provides a unique contribution to surf media, basically.
Yeah, no, I sense as a listener and a guy who has done some interviews myself that you really lean into it too. Like I know you well enough that when I'm listening to it, I can tell that you're like, oh, this is so great. You know, that we're actually going somewhere semi-interesting. Because let's be honest, you telling me about the fin design that you're riding is only going to carry me so far that's me personally, because we're inundated with surf stuff. And so it's refreshing, and I do sense that you're refreshed by it, that you are like, you know, stoked, for lack of a better word, that it's going down this path, that it's a path of vulnerability. It's a path of, it's just fun to learn about stuff that's beyond sort of the, the primary surf talk that we normally have.
Totally agree. Yeah, that stuff's always available. You know, like if you want to hear about the fin design, that's already out there. That's available. If you want to hear about contest wins from Tom Curran to Kelly Slater, those interviews have already been done. They're out there. But this is a lane that, again, I think the podcast medium is uniquely qualified for. Just like it's a more intimate conversational environment, so it fits that conversation better. And I'm comfortable doing it, and now they're comfortable providing it. And the part of the reason why I think they are comfortable providing it is because listeners are so kind in their feedback. Like you sending that to Ben, I've gotten a bunch of emails. I'm now forwarding those to Ben, and I think that it validates his vulnerability.
Yeah, I don't know if it got through to Ben, but I have an old phone number from him from like 15 years ago, so I don't even know if it got through. But I may have told you about this. So there's a lecture by Eckhart Tolle called Stillness, and it was a lecture he gave in Scotland somewhere. And it's like a 3-day seminar that, you know, you pay to go, and they put it on audio. And so it's really fascinating. It sounds extremely boring, Eckhart Tolle on stillness, but it's really quite fascinating. And you guys kind of touched on it, some of the themes in your discussion. And so I sent it over to Ben and said, hey, you may or may not enjoy this. We'll see.
I'll send you his current information so that you can follow up, but I'll check the stillness thing out too.
Yeah, I'll send it over to you. You might enjoy it.
Cool. Well, thanks. I'm glad.
Yeah,
I also mentioned to you last week that I was going to be interviewing Jeannie Chesser. Mm-hmm. That's completed. I'll probably publish it next week. And goes into similar territory. Not necessarily about addiction or anything, but similarly vulnerable territory. I know you know, obviously, her son, Todd, passed away. So that's a very traumatic thing to survive. But I don't know if you're aware, her husband, she was widowed at 20, Todd's dad, died in a really tragic circumstance. So Jeannie has suffered loss in very tragic circumstances, and then not only survived through it, but if you've ever encountered her, she's super optimistic. She's very positive. She's very effervescent. Like, so what is that about? You know, like, where does that come from? Is it practiced in order to be lived, or is it just instilled in you? Like, how do you do that? And so that's what a lot of our conversation was.
Cool. I look forward to listening to it. Yeah, she's wonderful. Did she mention anything about a documentary on Todd?
I forgot to ask.
Okay. All right. Well, look, let's bring it back. Go ahead.
I'm going to tease something. I've got the biggest get of all time being worked on right now that will be revealed in maybe 6 months or something.
That's the tease right there.
That's the tease.
You're just going to leave me guessing for the next 6 months.
I'll tell you off air.
If it's the biggest get, it narrows it down.
Yeah, it very much narrows it down. I'll tell you off air, but
yeah, I have a sense who it is.
I don't want to tell listeners because often these things don't come together.
Yeah,
but it's in the works, and it'll be a multi-part series, and it'll be good.
That'll be rad. Good for you. That must be very exciting.
Yeah.
All right, well, here's my Surfer X, David. We'll just shift gears here a little bit. Now, this Surfer X, this part of the show is try to stump David and you, the listeners and viewers, with a quote or perhaps just a paragraph that's not a quote from the surfer, but you're charged with guessing who the surfer is, who Surfer X is. And, David, this one is just simply one sentence. And then you're going to try to guess who it is. Are you ready for this, David? Who is Surfer
I am ready.
X? Here's the sentence. In 2015, Time magazine listed Surfer X on its 100 most influential people in the world list. David, who is Surfer X? Is it A? Are you ready to guess without even...
I am ready to guess, but if you want to give me the multiple choice, I'll take it. But I'm ready to guess even without it.
Well, what's better for the listeners? I feel like they need to hear the list.
Let me throw out a name just so they know what my guess was, and then you give me the options.
Okay.
Bethany Hamilton. Go ahead.
Who is Surfer X, David? Is it A, Gabe Medina, B, Laird Hamilton, C, Kelly Slater, or D, Dorian Paskowitz?
Wow. I mean, I would have guessed Laird other than Bethany, but I'm going to go Dorian.
I know, that seems like a good one, but it's not Dorian.
Okay.
It is not Dorian Paskowitz. It's Gabe Medina. Gabriel Medina.
It would have been my last pick.
I was surprised by it, too, when I read it. So that's why I went, I think I can stump David with this.
Well, especially you said 2015.
Right.
His star has grown 10x since 2015.
Right, exactly.
So I could see them saying that now and basing it off of his social media presence.
Yeah.
But at that time, he definitely didn't have world titles or the gold or a Olympic medal or any of this stuff that they could attach it to. So what's their reasoning? I
don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, but I mean, here's what you and I do know, that Medina won his... Oh, by the way, here's another question for you. Do you know the first event that on the CT that Medina won?
San Francisco.
Everyone thinks that. It's not. He actually won his first event. It was the Quicksilver Pro in France at age 17. 1 month later, he went to the Rip Curl Search and won San Francisco. And I would have thought it was San Francisco, too. I think that's the one everyone... Because it was really on everyone's radar a little bit, especially here in North America where you could tune in and watch it. But that was 2011. Is that right? 2012?
Yeah, I think it was 2011.
Yeah. So 4 years later, Medina's definitely on the scene. he's absolutely got a PR team that's probably pinging people. And at some point, some surfer at Time Magazine's like, Gabe Medina's the next shit. Let's put him on he's going to blow up pro surfing like we've never seen it. Let's make him our 100 most influential people. One of them, number 97 or whatever it was. Who knows? So, that's how I would spin it if you ask me why.
Yeah, you're right. I guess what this reminds me of is how irrelevant these lists are and how much. It makes me call into question the validity of time at this point, more than it does make me think that Gabriel Medina has more influence than I thought previously. And you're right. It's a PR campaign. There's a bunch of other agendas at play. And that person who made that decision was probably trying to appeal to youth or a new demographic and not necessarily just rely on the same old names that we're already familiar with. So they were trying to dig up something new. My question to you is, be that as it may, do you and I undervalue his influence in the world? I think that we do.
I would say for sure we do. And I think most probably North Americans do because of, he's from South America and they, that region doesn't get as much of the limelight as it does down there, up here,
I guess what I think is the World Cup has reminded me of this, is that I don't know who published this stat, but how many more people watch the World Cup finals game versus the Super Bowl? And it's like 1.2 billion people, additional people, watch the World Cup soccer game over the Super Bowl. So a huge number of people additionally watch the World Cup soccer game. It's a way bigger sport. And so we are so myopic, obviously, especially in Southern California, because we can be. We just have everything we need and we don't need to look out elsewhere for anything else. But things are huge elsewhere. Our stuff is tiny by comparison. So I think surfing is small. And it shocked me that any surfer would make the Time 100 most influential people list, period, full stop. But he might be the one figure who transcends into mainstream influence outside of surfing.
Yeah. And look, the Dorian Paskowitz makes sense too. It was right around that time. He actually died a year earlier, but he had been making waves with, bringing surfboards, trying to bring Israel and Palestine together through surfing, through bringing surfboards and surf gear and stuff like that.
Well, the other argument that could be made there is just his wellness influence and health influence, and all of that would have had influence elsewhere. And even though surfing is small, a lot of people do venerate it and look into it for insights into their own life. And other people who are like, Hollywood, Tom Hanks and Brian Grazer or whatever are like surfing, and then they're inviting Laird on a trip or whatever. So Laird can have influence through those worlds, and Dorian I could see being one of those figures, but not a lot of people would know who his name is. He's just having influence subliminal or passively or whatever.
Well, I brought Gabe up because Christian Bocut for Stab magazine wrote a little piece about Gabe getting engaged, and although that was sort of the lead of the story, Christian really went on to kind of do a little dive into Gabe's history so far and where he's at now, and how he was basically suggesting that this engagement could be like the final piece to the puzzle, if you will, for Gabe winning the world title this year. And I'll just kind of break it down for you and then let you make some comments. So in 2021, David, and we mentioned his early career, but in 2021, Gabe dominated the tour. He took 2 events and he finished nearly 13,000 points ahead of everyone. And then he won the world title at Lowers. And Medina describes that as the best year of his life, or at least then he did. And he had fallen in love, and he was married to this Brazilian model, and he had made a decision to switch coaches from his dad, Charlie, to Andy King. All that in 21. A great year. 2022, Medina got a divorce. Things spiral. There's a widely publicized fallout with his immediate family, reportedly because of that rapid-fire marriage. In 2022, Medina took the first half of that year off to prioritize mental health from the previous divorce and family fallout. In 23, Medina missed out on competing in the WSL finals by just one spot. In 24, Medina started showing signs of his old self. And again, I'm quoting from Christian's piece here. He won a bronze medal in the Paris Olympics, and then he did, however, miss out on the final five. So 2024 had some ups and downs, and he ended the year in seventh place. Then in 25, things looked really good for Medina, but he tore his left pectoral muscle, and that recovery took 8 months, and he missed the entire season. And here we are, David. It's 2026. Gabe Medina is in his physical prime. He's all healed up, and by all accounts now, he has a secure, healthy, and mature, I would suggest to you, relationship. Gabby seems to be in a prime position. He's currently sitting in fourth place on the WSL rankings with his strongest tour stops ahead of him, Chopu, Cloudbreak, and Pipeline still to come. So I thought that was a good way to sort of compress why it is that Christian feels like Gabe's on the rise here this year, and this is the year of Gabe Medina, and I'm all here. I'm here for it, and I'm a believer. And you and I have spoken about Gabe earlier this season that we felt like he was the guy.
Yeah, Gabe's ability and talent on a surfboard has always been there, and what you end up, the only thing that's wavered is his personal life, basically, which Christian, I think, highlights accurately. Interestingly, his dad's back in the picture. So we knew about the fallout with his stepdad, Charlie, who is a big supporter and, like you mentioned, coach through early in his career. We know about the fallout. What hasn't been publicized or written about is their reconciliation. I don't know, other than I just see Charlie at events again, hugging Gabe when he gets out of the water. So
I think that's a good thing.
Yes,
I
of
think
course.
that's yeah.
So it appears that there is reconciliation. The other thing that's worth noting is good for him for getting engaged. He's on the upswing of that. Like, there could be a downside of that, as we've seen in the past, but this year at least, he's on the upswing of that, where everything is copacetic, honeymoon phase, everybody's happy, and I think that bodes well for his competitive savvy.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of what I was getting at when I mentioned that it seems like a maturing in the relationship status. Like, Gabe's like 32, I think. Is he 32 years old? God, he always seems like he's 17, isn't he?
Yeah,
But I mean,
I'd
like,
say he's at least 30, yeah.
it's it's not like, your first love and you're like, yeah, let's get married. Let's get drunk. And then the next day decide to get married or whatever. I'm not saying that's what happened, but this seems like a mature Gabe Medina. He's got now some security in his life regarding a family situation on both the marriage side and Charlie coming back into the equation. Charlie has probably learned a lot from it too. They both are kind of like settled, like we're very comfortable with each other now. We get it. And I'm here to watch Gabe Medina win the world title.
I want Leonardo Fioravanti to stay in first position, but when you put those two surfers side by side, Gabe looks like an infinitely more capable competitor.
Yeah.
Especially at those venues.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. What do you got?
No, I haven't thought through the Gabe analysis, so I'm glad to hear it. Interestingly, Christian Bocut, I actually went on a surf trip with him 12 years ago, I'd say.
Oh.
So I haven't maintained any contact with him at all, but I was glad to see his name popping up on Stab occasionally, and I think he does a fantastic job with his writing. He was a very smart kid at the time, and his mom was actually on the trip kind of as a chaperone, and she was super, super cool. Like, you could tell, great family, great kid.
Remember? Do you remember?
All right, Scott, we're back from commercial.
Wave pool, no.
Just to follow up. Gabriel Medina, his social influence. He has 12.9 million followers. Kelly Slater has 3.3. Bethany Hamilton has 2.3. So that's a factor of 4 more than Kelly himself. So Gabriel Medina, most popular surfer in the world.
Tell me about your neighbor. Isn't she an influencer?
Let's not do that again. So we
Let me just say
di-
this.
technical
Grizzly
difficulty.
bears are on my algorithm. Check out Grizzly Guy on Instagram. That's what's in my algorithm. Grizzly guys and some wave pool stuff.
All right. So yeah, Scott and I lost 5 minutes of recording due to a technical difficulty, is what we'll call it. So we're rehashing topics that we just talked about. But let's get into wave pool updates.
Yeah.
Wave pool updates. Desert surf. Is that what we're calling it, Scott?
DSRT is what they call it, I think. DSRT is what I hear people say.
Well, I hate when they do that. I hate when they leave out the vowels. Okay, here we go. The wave, from all reports of the pros who have ridden it, is the most ocean-like wave of any wave pool that we've seen as of yet. My question to you is, will that now revitalize your interest in surfing wave pools, and also potentially find a model of profitability for wave pools, perhaps for the first time?
Well, my interest in wave pools has never waned. I want to go surf them. I'm totally into it. It's a ton of fun. It's exciting to see the technology and the machination, which has come to fruition. It's pretty cool. I love being there. My only criticism is I get a little bit bored watching some of it over and over. I can watch a couple clips, but I don't want to watch a competition there. Regarding profitability, I saw something very interesting, a really good take, I thought, on LinkedIn. And that is, it was something like 99% of the population does not surf. 1% of the population does surf. If you want profitability from the wave pools, you've already got the 1%. They're showing up because they're surfers in their 20s and they're ready to go. What you need to do is get the 99% to show up. And how do you do that? Well, lessons, learning. This is where you're going to become a surfer, community around that. I think the huge success is in the crappy waves at wave parks. That's where, and I say crappy relative to what you and I would want to surf, like small, soft, longboardable learning waves, and then adjusting and moving up as you go from aspiring surfer to enthusiast surfer. Get those 99% that want to be quote unquote surfers, but just need to be told, hey, come on over here. I'll turn you into a surfer, and you're going to hang with Rob Machado's going to be right over there. He surfs this wave all the time. It was a really insightful LinkedIn piece, and I'm sure it's been thought of before, but I thought it really kind of struck a nerve with me. Like, you and I aren't the guy that they need to be marketing this to. At least a majority of their marketing. They need to be marketing it to, like my wife, your wife, our friends, cousins that live in Indiana, all of those people that want to be a part of this thing, bring them in, and then I think there's going to be money there.
Yeah, it's an interesting take, but you can make more money selling them alcohol at a smaller pool.
By the way, that all is part of the equation here. It's the revenue stream. It's endless. We just need the 99% to come in.
What I'm saying is the imprint of the pool, the amount of water and resource required to run the pool, is such a huge upfront expense, or just operating expense on a day-to-day, that selling them a 1 hour lesson for 1 hour in the pool is not the best use of that space. Like that square footage and resource required could be better, more profitably developed in a million other ways. And I also think that somebody in Indiana who's going to pay for a vacation to come out here to learn to surf, that's not what they're buying into. They're buying into the bronzed beauties on the beach in Malibu. You know what I mean? Like, they're buying into that lifestyle. This is a poor facsimile of it.
Yeah, but bronze beauties on the beach in Malibu happens like 2.5 months out of the year.
But that's what they're buying into. That's the psychology is what they've seen on a Hawaii, postcard on the beach of Waikiki.
I mean, that's an interesting. I'm not saying they're not buying into that. I think they're buying into the whole thing. I think they're buying into bronze, tropical perfection, beautiful people, blue alcoholic flowery drinks.
I agree.
Surfing, small Honolulu, Waikiki. Like, I think that all of that, I think to just,
I agree.
put it in a silo like that. Yeah.
No, I agree. What I'm saying is going to the lunar landscape of the desert is not that.
But when you're at that place, there's palm trees everywhere. You feel like you're, like it's pretty, you've been to, Palm Springs is pretty deluxe. I mean, it's a premium location. Next door to the surf pool is like a line of Gucci stores, and high-end steakhouses and super expensive golfing. And it's a pretty premium destination.
I love it. I love the location. I love the area. What I'm saying is that idea of selling it to the beginner surfer, I think is also a little bit of a miss. That's not the right target. If anything, I would say show the airs, show Zeke doing the airs in the pool, show Rob Machado getting barreled. That's what they're aspiring to. The beginner, that's better marketing to the beginner than showing some kid barely able to get up to their feet going straight wearing a helmet.
Well, I think that you can do both. There's a way to creatively go, hey, to get here, let's start here.
So my criticism of the pool, I guess my question around the pool has always been profitability. Like, we're seeing different technologies come and we're seeing different locations being developed. Which one of these? Because there's a bunch that are already functioning, but are any of them profitable? And my understanding from talking to people involved in the pools is no, none of them are profitable yet. Some of them are booked out, but again, the amount of investment, the decade worth of investment, the decade worth of land development, all of these things are such a massive hole to dig out of that we don't see profitability on the horizon for what the customer is willing to pay for the experience.
How much do you think they're willing to pay? That's my first question to you.
Depends.
I've heard that it's $250 an hour at DSRT. They haven't put out the pricing yet, but that's what I'm hearing. $250 an hour.
So I think
I'm going to do $250 an hour.
I think people will be willing to pay that, but I don't.
How many hours does it run that per day? 12?
Say 10.
10.
Let's say 10 hours a day. And how many people are in the pool? 6 to 8. Or just say 10.
Okay. So 250 times
10 people an hour.
10 hours.
2
times 10 people.
So 25
times 7 days.
25 grand a day.
25 grand a day, but
in pool fees.
So 25 grand a day times, let's say it's open 340 days of the year.
Okay.
8.5 million per year. I've heard that those guys that are doing this thing have about 80 million invested in this thing.
There you go.
So that's 10 years, but that's just pure pool. That's without the,
that's also
without the revenues surrounding the real estate.
That's
which
also
is part
just,
of the, yeah.
It's also just gross revenues. That's not your net. You have operating.
I agree. No,
yeah.
I'm just trying to give
It's
you
a terrible,
start with some numbers. I'm not. I'm just
investment.
giving you. I'm not here to wave the flag of let's invest in this. I'm just saying that there is a way out. They've determined a way out, and it's obviously the real estate surrounding it.
Yeah, I don't see the way out personally.
Sounds like OpenAI. I don't see the way out. This company is not going to succeed.
I look, I've seen kind of behind the scenes numbers as well and insights, and I don't see the way. I haven't seen one yet successfully developed. Or find profitability.
Why are so many being built then?
Because when you're making an investment, there's maybe a known, if this succeeds, here's a known return on this investment. But I think what a lot of people are investing in is the unknown. They're like, look, what if this thing blows up? What if wave pools are built all around the country and this is the next pickleball? I want to be on the front end of this, or I want to be early in on this. What if they start replacing tennis courts with pickleball courts? What if they start replacing regular pools or, track and field with wave pools. I want to be early money into this. So I think that it's not proven yet that that's not going to happen, but I would venture a guess if it hasn't happened, if we haven't seen it kickstarted in the past decade, we're not going to see it kickstarted now. So I think you can eliminate the X variable, and the only thing that you can count on is the hard numbers that you just crunched. We're going to invest $80 million into this space. How long will, if we're selling spaces at $250 a pop, how long will it be until we see that investment back? And if it's more than 10 years, that's a kind of poor use of your money. And based on your math, it could be 20 and 30 years. You know, it's a huge investment for a small return. So I think that's where we've seen the pivot with Palm Springs Surf Club, where you saw the build out of the dance party scene, where it's like, let's turn this into a Vegas pool party and just start selling alcohol, because these guys, we got 12 guys in the pool right now. They all have girlfriends. Those girlfriends have girlfriends. They want somewhere to hang out. They can't go hang out at the golf course with these guys because the golf club doesn't want them there partying. Let's they can come hang out here. We'll sell them drinks.
I agree. I mean, you can do that with the 99% too. My point is that why focus your alcohol sales on 1% of the population when you can focus it on 99% of the population?
It is. Yeah. The 1% is just your boyfriends. They're going to come here to golf. They're also interested in surfing. You want to hang out in a bikini by the pool. You might as well hang out where your boyfriend's surfing. He's the 1%, but everybody surrounding him is the 99%.
Right. But I don't know if they're the 90. No, that's not true. The people surrounding him isn't the 99%. The 99% is the aspirational surfer. Guys that are you and I know that are family members of ours that want to learn, that are like 20 years old and that live in, let's say, I don't know, San Bernardino. So want to surf and want to. That's 8%.
That's 8%, by the way. It's not that there's 1% of the population that surfs and 99% who want to surf. There's 1% that surfs, and there's about 8% who would be willing to do it. You know what I mean? And among that 8%,
you're bearish. I get it. You're bearish, and I'm not saying I'm bullish, by the way, either. I'm just saying.
I think
it seems like to market to the group that you've already got. You've already got us. We're going. Why don't you try to market to the people that aren't going, that didn't realize they could go?
Yeah, I get it.
Didn't realize they could bring their hot girlfriend in a bikini and she could drink while he learns to surf. And then they watch Rob Machado rip the bags out of a wave on the, you know.
My other question for you is, you said, I'm the 1%, I'm already going. You've gone when you get the invite. Would you pay to go?
I've paid to go. I've paid before. I paid at Waco. And
so DSTR is going to be open in a couple of months. Yeah. Are you going to pay to go?
I would definitely pay to go if it was tied in with like a boys' weekend playing golf and surfing.
Okay.
Yeah, I would pay for I have a dear friend of mine that surfed the wave. He said, dude, in an hour you're surfed out. You know, he's like my age. So, you know, I'm surfing for an hour. Let's be real. And he goes, you're surfed out. You're completely surfed out. And so $250 to be surfed out and be hanging with your bros at the pool and experiencing all that, and everyone's having drinks and food, and it's super nice. And then you play golf the next day. I'm in for sure.
So I think that will be key to their success, is the location of Palm Springs, because I go to Palm Springs a couple of times a year and I love it. And if you can squeeze in a 1 hour surf, 2 1 hour surfs, that's icing on the cake.
The real question is, does the DSRT wave pool make you and I go, you know, we're like, well, we're going to go to Palm Springs, but maybe we'll go to Zion National Park, you know, like, does that DSRT swing it into, you know what? Yeah, let's go to Palm Springs because I can surf and golf, and you know what I mean? And you can go to the Gucci store.
Me?
No, I mean the wife or whatever. You
know? So no, the short answer is no. The longer answer is once. DSTR gets you to go there once, and then you experience that wave. I just want to check how this wave is different than that wave, basically. But I don't know that I would then be planning regular trips out there. The other thing is, and I haven't surfed DSRT, but I have surfed Palm Springs Surf Club a couple of times. I've had a blast every single time I've gone. At the end of the day, I am thrilled. Like, it is, the environment's super fun. I love it. The wave is fun. But what I was going to say, watching the Rob Machado get barreled at the DRST.
DSRT.
DSRT. You're right. DSRT. It's what we're also going to see after the novelty fades is that getting a barrel there is not as cool as getting a barrel in the ocean. Like,
Well,
knowing that it's on dial, it'll be fun to make it, in the sense of, like, if you're going out on your skateboard and you're trying to do a kickflip for the first time, it'll be fun once you actually complete the trick. It is not anywhere near the same as hunting one down when it's unexpected, out in the wild, and it comes out of nowhere. And being capable in the position to actually execute in that thing. So that's the other one detail with the wave is, even though it's more ocean-like than any other wave we've seen in the past, it's still expected to do what it does.
Yeah, I agree. There, I was just watching Jordy Smith surfing that incredible wave in South Africa that just runs on a sandbar, and it's basically like Namibia, but a right. And that's just like, there's nothing that's just pure surf adrenaline stoke incredibleness,
Well,
Oh, here we go. You happen to have it.
I happen to have it because it is my must-see moment, presented by TreesWax, treeswax.com. Promo code SPIT, save 20%, get yourself a money-back guarantee when you buy it online. There's no question of how different these things are. By the way, Jordy Smith has the best YouTube channel going. Like, all the other YouTubers have figured out how to converse with the camera and talk to their audience. Jordy Smith doesn't do that. Jordy Smith is going old school surf porn status. The videos that we used to pay $30 for, the VHS or the DVDs at the surf shop, now are available for free on Jordy Smith's YouTube account. And it's the old model of surfing, like high shreddability surfing with good music, a little bit of B-roll, no confessionals, no talking to the camera, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool video. That one, it's next. It's just crazy. Crazy surfing barrels.
Yeah, he's at the top of his game as a free surfer, and South Africa is rich in waves. They got the Day of Days. The name of the video is Day of Days, and so you can watch it here or watch it there. Jordy Smith's YouTube channel. Follow his YouTube channel. Back to wave pool stuff. As it relates to business, I can't believe it took this long to get to this point of the conversation, but the Austin Surf Club is at risk of bankruptcy. They've done some really sophisticated maneuvering to try to salvage the project. But basically, Austin Surf Club Venture LP, which is the name of the company that's developing the property, has racked up over $16 million in outstanding construction liens and unpaid contractors. To rescue the development, which is anchored, of course, by the wave pool. It's a bunch of real estate development as well, but it's anchored by the wave pool. To rescue the development, they've established a special municipal management district. This is a taxing strategy aimed to generate roughly $171 million in property tax revenue to fund critical infrastructure like wastewater, utilities, and roads, keeping the ultimate dream of the facility alive. So ultimately what they've identified from developing the site is that there's a ton of municipal infrastructure that needs to be redeveloped to supply this real estate project. So they're seeking basically taxpayers to do all of this work for them.
Wow. Socialize the downside and privatize the upside. Sounds like socialism.
So talking about the business model and those that I've said are not, going to take a long time to seek profitability if they're just selling lessons in the pool. Yeah. This is the opposite of that. This is 178 private luxury residences that are averaging $2.25 million in costs. And this is alongside the club membership at the wave pool that costs $1.25 million just to be a member of. So this is a country club model on steroids.
Wow. Well, we shall see. I don't know.
Do you want to know who's already bought in
Sure.
to the real estate development?
Sure.
Matthew McConaughey, Tony Hawk, and NFL legend Drew Brees. And the development also has a wellness spa, fitness centers, a private brewery, pickleball courts, fine dining restaurants, and of course the wave pool.
Here's how that goes. I call you up. I go, hey, Matthew McConaughey, it's me, the guy from Austin. Look, we just want to use your name. I mean, you potentially would buy a home here, right? I mean, just, yeah, man, I would, if you put my name on there, sure. When you guys build it, call me. I'm in.
Yeah.
I doubt there was a check written.
So McConaughey was an early investor in the project itself. And
well, there you go.
Yeah. So there's that.
Anyway, I hope that succeeds. I'm a little wary of taxpayer money being used. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know. You know what?
No kidding.
Let me raise my hand and say, I don't know.
Well,
no kidding.
in other surf contest news,
Yes.
Natural Selection, which was the incredible snowboarding event that's taken place for a number of years, got into surf in 2025 and ran a phenomenal event in Micronesia. They're coming back for round 2 this year. This time, the tour trades the Pacific for the South Atlantic. Instead of one venue, the 2026 format sends the field to a remote camp in South Africa for a full week. They're testing surfers across multiple different types of waves to see who can adapt, create, and endure better than anyone else in the water. Reigning champions Mila Coca-Brown and Soli Bailey return to defend their titles, and they're also joined by returning athletes Kira Pinkerton, Noah Beshin, and Aton Osborne. The full event will premiere September 25th on Red Bull TV and on Red Bull's YouTube channel.
Wow. Okay. Well, that'll be exciting. I mean, okay. So here are my thoughts. The WSL there's a lot of competition, right? There's some competition. There's some competition for surfing competition for eyeballs, such as ours, right? And this is one of them, and I thought of Kira, when you said Kira Pinkerton, I'm like, I think she's trying to qualify. The WSL at some point does need to go Ian Cairns on these people and just go, look, if you're a WSL competitor athlete, you don't get to surf in these other events.
Yeah.
Until they do that, I don't know if they can do that, but they sort of need to own their athletes a little bit.
Look, feel free to do it. Red Bull and Natural Selection have no shortage of talent that they could pull from that aren't WSL athletes.
Totally.
I think what we've said for a long time was we want a Rebel tour. Like the WSL's structure is so bloated that they're limited in their mobility. Why can't Red Bull or somebody else do a Rebel tour that are more of a UFC model? It doesn't have to be a tour. It could just be these kind of individual one-off events that are the heavyweights slugging it out. And Red Bull, by the way, has done a good job at this with their Cape Fear event and their different kind of big wave specialty events. But I think Natural Selection is actually doing a little bit more thorough job at picking a who's who of like free surfers that we get to enjoy throughout the course of the year and putting them together in a dynamic environment to see who the best surfer is. I like this adaptation from last year that was at a single venue. I like the idea of going somewhere for 10 days and testing go wherever the waves are best on this day. And over the course of a week, we will determine who the best surfer was in a variety of conditions. And by the way, seems to be it's not going to be streamed live. Like there's a lot of difficulty with doing that. So it seems like they're going to film it, package it, and then roll it out as a product after the fact.
Yeah.
Which I think is smart.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see, I mean, in some regards, Stab's sort of doing a mini version of this. They've almost kind of dipped their toes into the water with that. Is it the Surf 100? What is the competition they have where they bring? Is it Surf 100?
Yeah, it is.
And they, you know, for a number of years, they've kind of said, "Hey, let's just like wipe this whiteboard clean and do a competition. Anything goes, you know. Like one day we'll do this, and the winner has to eat a burrito and paddle out, and then the next day we'll do this, you know, and the guys have to surf in bikinis and the girls have to surf in full suit or whatever, you know."
I liked the original Stab 100 concept. The way that they've taken it to make it a YouTube, series has just ladled on a bunch of BS that I think is going to succeed in their goal to like develop a fan base on YouTube that hopefully then become premium subscribers probably. But it's definitely 5 steps back in terms of giving you and I putting the best surfers in the best waves and figuring out, who the best free surfer is in the contest environment, which I think was the original conceit.
Yeah. Well, David, there's another tour that is going to stoke your imagination and probably make you grab your phone and put this in your calendar. And that's the official launch of the Wave Pool Surf Tour, the world's first global online and live event surf tour to get dedicated exclusively to wave pool surfing. As wave pool surfing continues to grow, I'm reading directly from their PR. It's time for an inclusive competition platform that creates more opportunities for all surfers while connecting the global wave pool community. Our mission is simple: create more opportunities for surfers of all ages and abilities, unite the global wave pool surf community, and provide a pathway from local participation to regional rankings and ultimately our wave pool world final. David, did you just throw up in your mouth a little bit?
That was just a sneeze. Did you think that today's show is April 1st or something? Is this an April Fool's joke or is this real?
No, this is real. The inaugural event it's called the Alalia Surf Challenge, the one in Switzerland, August 1st, using Wavegarden and Surf Eye technology. This is an online event. All you got to do is show up, surf, and submit your clip of you ripping, and we'll judge it, and we'll move you forward or shut you down. And eventually we're going to get to the best wave pool clips ever and determine a champion.
Cool. Can't wait. I feel like Dr. Evil. Cool. Do the sharks have freaking laser beams on their forehead? I remember I saw Albee recently. It might have been he started a podcast with Jack Freestone, but I think that might be where he delivered this information. He won that first wave pool contest in Snowdonia. Red Bull put it on. He said he never got paid for it.
Oh.
He said, and they've since gone out of business, but that was like 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. He won that event, and the check, it was supposed to be $5,000 or $10,000 or something. He's like, they gave him the big fake check and he left and never ended up getting paid. And then they went out of business.
There's a scene in a movie where a guy takes a big fake check and tries to cash it at a bank. I forget which movie that is. It's like a Ben Stiller movie or something.
Yep. Well, anyways, that's all I got for surf wave pool news. I do have another must-see moment. I said it was Jordy Smith because that was it up until yesterday when I watched Need Essentials' latest film that just dropped. It's called Spaces in Between, and it profiles a female surfer from New Zealand called Joanna Brebner, who seeks to cycle from the bottom of the South Island of New Zealand all the way through to the tip of the North Island of New Zealand and surf along the way. It's about a 3,000 kilometer trip, about 90 days. And it's in keeping with a lot of their Torn Martin films about like just slow travel, basically going slow, like forget about the strike mission, show up for a swell, surf your brains out and bail. This is more about like immerse yourself in the land and the journey and the people. So it's fantastic.
All right. That sounds similar to Ben Bourgeois' take on things.
Totally. Take your time. Spaces in Between by Need Essentials, of course, presented by treeswax.com. Promo code SPIT, 20% off. I've got an interview this week as well with, that I'm recording, not publishing yet, but Tom Servais Jr.
Cool.
Do you have any experiences with Tom?
Yeah, Tom and I worked, he was a Surfer Magazine staff photographer when I was there for 10 years, and he probably worked there for like 25 years or something. And he's a legendary lensman, and he's got great stories. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be jam-packed episode. There's going to be a ton of, Servais's got moments, I saw a picture that he took the other day that blew me away. Oh, it was at the Surfer Pole in 1978. And it's a picture of Sean Thompson, and he had won the Surfer Pole, and he's getting kissed by two different women, and he's got a big smile. And it was photo Tom Servais. I mean, Tom goes way back, like 70s.
I know.
And you're going to have your hands full with great, great anecdotes.
So Tom was born in 53, so he's in his early 70s now. The dude is so committed to health. Like, he is the epitome of health, especially for a 73-year-old. Charging still, surfing, kite surfing, like chasing wind up and down the coast. Like, he's always on the go. We've been chatting for months now, and it's like, oh no, there's wind just popped up on the charts. I got to go head north. Like, he is absolutely impressive, basically.
I just remembered one of many moments I've had with Tom, but one of them was we were out surfing at Cammyland, just to the west of Sunset Beach, and we're out there, and it's just he and I, and the swell's rising, and we're surfing. Like, we paddle out. We paddle out separately. I just happen to see him out there, and we're out there, and it's like 3 to 4 feet, and then some sets start showing up, and it's getting bigger, and you're starting to see these mountains that march across the horizon towards the West Bowl at sunset, and Tom's like, dude, I've been out here, and days like this, we got to be careful. Like, it can go to 15 feet in 20 minutes. Like, it just, when the swell arrives out there, it just arrives, and sure enough, some bombs start coming in. And I remember Tom went in, and I was like, I'm going to follow this guy's lead. This guy knows what he's doing out here, and I beelined it. I caught a next wave in, and then sure enough, it was just, 12 to 15 foot west peak sunset by the evening, just crazy.
Yeah, scary.
But it was good to listen to his sage advice.
Yeah. You pick up a lot when you're shooting, surfing, watching all day, every day. Now, my final question to you is, surf photographer, best job in the world or worst job in the world?
From my own personal, I'm not really a surf photographer. I did do some photography for a while. Those photographers on staff would just sneer down on me like, this guy. Back then, you kind of had to earn your chops, and to just show up with a digital camera and go, yeah, I'm taking photos now. They were just like, dude, you're not a part of this little tribe. You're on the outside looking in. Occasionally, they'd give me some advice. Sean Davey gave me a lot of. Sean Davey was very helpful. But what was the question? Photographer, worst job, best job?
Look, it looks like the best job on its face. You're like,
No,
I'm traveling the world with surfers.
It's the worst.
It is the worst job.
It's the worst.
You're sitting in the sun, not surfing.
No.
And it's like, the idea of traveling the world is awesome until you meet a girl you like, have a kid. Like, now you're traveling the world, not surfing, documenting other people surfing in a job that pays less and less every year.
I think if you're of the, artistic, like, I think that surf photographers that do it really well love it. Like Tom Servais, like Devine, like Brewer, like Hornbreaker, like all these guys, Grambo, all of these guys have an eye for photography. Like, there's something in their brain that they're artists in their own way, and they're trying to change light and change the way shadows work. And especially back in the film days, those guys were into it. Like, and so they were stoked to stand on the beach for 8 hours and shoot, Sean and PT and rabbit it off the wall. But me, as a hardcore surfer, I'm like, get me out of here. I want to go surfing. I told you the story about, I was at Cloudbreak with Bruce Raymond and Martin Daly and me, and we were in a boat. And the swell had come up, and it's like, okay, it's time to run the contest, the Quicksilver Pro. And I was there for Surfer, and I was doing the internet stuff. And they're like, hey, we're going to go surf swimming pools. It's like 6 foot. And I'm like, hey, I want to go. Can I go with you guys? And Bruce Raymond was like, mate, job's on. You got to go work. And I remember just being, oh my God, I want to be at swimming pools. I don't want to be stuck in a boat for,
That's how I feel. Yeah. So I'll get into it with Tom. Let him weigh in on this conversation of whether or not he was happy to stand in the sun shooting.
I'm sure he was. I mean, he taught, like I said, the guys that are real professional photographers, they're driven by something other than, the money or the lack of waves.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. I was weaned on all of his imagery. So.
Yeah, me too. The Conan, the Conan Hayes shot at massive cloud break from like the mid to late 90s. I believe that was one of Tom's. That was an incredible one. Yeah. Of course, the Tom Curran cutback. That's maybe his most iconic image.
Yep.
But he's got quite a few. I'm sure you'll do some research and bring up each one of these photos and talk about it.
Yep, we will. All right. Well, also, quick reminder, as always, Surfrider Foundation, if you're not a member, what are you doing? If you're If you're using the ocean, it's actually shocking. Their membership numbers are so much smaller than the number of surfers who are in the water. So please consider helping support the cause. Their whole ambition is just to help keep oceans healthy. And beaches clean in addition to that, but oceans healthy is the main goal here. And so we all need the ocean to survive just as a human species. So surfrider.org to join the Surfrider Foundation. And then also waterwaystravel.com. We love Waterways Travel. Our Chicama trip, I haven't mentioned it, but it's sold out now. We had one opening left about a month or two ago, but that has since sold out. But they can send you anywhere in the world. I think they have 45 or so different accommodations that they work with. They've developed some of them themselves, and they've been doing it since 1994. So long-time relationships with hotels, boat drivers, photographers, van drivers, from every level of accommodation, from like land camps to luxury yachts, boutique hotels, and everything in between. For every level of surfer too, like beginner locations, expert locations. So they take all the hassle and stress out of travel. Waterwaystravel.com is the place you go.
Yeah, that's the place. I got a text last night from Xanadu, surfboard shaper, legendary surfboard shaper Xanadu. He's like, Scott, I want to enter Best in Show. And so this is a call for entries. Boardroom's Best in Show board build off, David, presented by Real Water Sports. We're giving $5,000 to the winning shaper of the Best in Show. Any shaper in the world can enter. It's free to enter. All you got to do, this is all you got to do to enter, is send us an email and bring your board on Friday, the setup day, with a vertical stand, and you're in. And $5,000 to the winning shaper. The category, Super El Nino Big Wave Gun. It's officially a Super El Nino, David. It's been stamped as Super El Nino. It's happening. Super El Nino Big Wave Gun. Call to entries, boardroomshow.com. For more information, just click on Best in Show when you get there. Boardroomshow.com. Click on Best in Show, and all the information's right there.
I've never seen a Xanadu gun. I believe he has it in him, and I believe he's built them before, but I've never seen them. I'm curious.
He's built them for Brad Gerlach. Did I tell you the story about? I bought a bunch of boards for the auction, and one of the boards that I pulled, I bought like 70 boards from this guy at one time. One of the boards I pulled out was a Xanadu gun for Waimea from like 93 or something. It had this insane color job, and I was like, wow, cool, and I took it home, and eventually I started cleaning all these boards up to see if they were worthy of being in the auction. And one of them was the Xanadu gun. And as I cleaned the dust off of it, it said for Gurr. And it was Brad Gerlach's Waimea gun. So I texted Brad, and I showed him a picture. I'm like, hey, do you know anything about this board? And he was like, dude, where'd you find that thing? And I'm like, oh, I bought it from this guy in Los Angeles. He goes, well, that's my board. I'm not sure how, I didn't, he was basically saying somebody stole it, He left it on the North Shore and he never saw it again. And you know how the North Shore is. It was stashed somewhere and somebody took it. And so, eventually I got the board back to Brad. I'm like, look, it's Brad's board, but yeah, a Xanadu gun. So, and then Brad sent me photos of him riding it at Waimea. It was like a 9.9 or 9.10 or a 10.4 or whatever it was, Yeah.
That reminds me, I have a Paizel step up on the North Shore somewhere, my buddy. I've never seen it again.
I know. I've got some boards floating around myself. I hear
I would imagine Xanadu too probably made Brian Conley surfing Puerto Escondido like bigger boards for him too, for sure.
For sure. All right. So everyone's excited about the Best in Show board build-off, Super El Nino big wave gun. It can be a gun for anywhere. It can be for Puerto Escondido. It can be for Blacks. It can be for Swamis. It can be for Mavericks. It can be for Totos. Whatever, wherever you're at, build us your board, and it's going to be fun.
Awesome. Cannot wait. I'll be there.
Okay, David, look, we said a lot. Until next time, adios and aloha.